Welcome to Babonga's channel, Polymer clay BJD, Thorax and Pelvis. For the thorax, the only thing I'm doing is forming a very basic shape around a bamboo skewer. For the pelvis, I'm using the bottom part of the bamboo skewer and again I form a very basic shape. And now I have both parts, thorax and pelvis. Now I'm going to cover these with polymer clay. The thickness of the clay is about 2 millimeters. I don't need to do any details now, but what I need to do is add a part for the neck. Just skewing this and integrate it with the rest of the polymer clay. Next, what I'm doing is just sketching some very basic features of the thorax and neck. No anatomy and no detailed work is needed. Next, I'm moving to the pelvis and doing the same thing and bake. Now I can work and add anatomy and details without the fear of distorting the shape. Always use liquid polymer clay when adding raw clay to baked clay. The point here is to integrate the raw clay to the baked clay. After checking my piece from all angles, I'm gonna add a little bit detail to the back, like this. For the pelvis, the work I have to do is a little bit more, front and back. The good part with this is that you can see what you add because the color of the baked clay is different than the color of the raw clay. Anyway, okay, now I'm gonna take my time with this because I need this part to be as symmetric as possible, as correct in its anatomy as possible, and there is always a chance that I have to revisit this area for more corrections and detail additions. The best thing with polymer clay is that I can bake and bake again as many times as I need to. And it doesn't matter that these parts, thorax and pelvis, will be covered in clothes. I still have to make them right. After the second baking comes the hard and tedious task of hollowing the pieces. Loosening the aluminum foil and then pulling and twisting and working to empty all the pieces of aluminum foil from the thorax and pelvis. Well, almost all of it. Now I have to smooth these jagged edges of the openings using my cutter to make them more neat and regular in shape. But the cutter is not enough. I have to dress them in raw clay to make them even more smooth. I'm gonna do that for all the openings in the thorax and the pelvis. Especially for the pelvis, I thought that I should widen a little bit the hip area, so I'm adding volume around the opening of the hip, as you see here, and I'm gonna do the same for the other side. So the whole piece is gonna be a little bit more wide. Before the oven, I'm going also to add a little bit of height to the neck. Just adding some volume there and piercing with a skewer. Also, the head opening has to be worked a little bit, so it does correspond in diameter to the neck. Last touch before the oven is to make the eyes and lips a little more shiny by adding a little bit of liquid polymer clay there. After the third and last baking, all my pieces are ready, and now I have to make sure that they work well together. For example, I have to trim the neck because it's too high. It's very easy, do it with a cutter, and now it works fine. Very last thing is sanding, and this was it.